Ladies and gentlemen, grab your metaphorical forceps and prepare to dissect the fascinating, controversial, and endlessly memeable mind of Jordan B. Peterson. This Canadian psychologist turned cultural phenomenon didn't just dip his toes in the water of public intellectualism, he cannonballed in, splashed everyone in sight, and then told them, go clean your room. So straighten your posture, lobster style, and let's embark on a Petersonian journey that's part self-help, part ancient mythology, and entirely unafraid to ruffle some feathers. The man behind the meme, Peterson's life and times.
Cannonball!
Before we dive into the deep end of Peterson's intellectual pool, let's meet the man who decided to take on postmodernism armed with nothing but a knowledge of Carl Jung, a passionate love for lobsters, and an impressive carnivore diet. Jordan B. Peterson was born in 1962 in Edmonton, Alberta, the frozen north that apparently specializes in producing hockey players, oil, and controversial public intellectuals. Young Jordan grew up in a small town, which he describes as frontier-like. Perhaps this is where he developed his fondness for rugged individualism and his ability to survive in harsh climates, both meteorologically and ideologically. Peterson's academic journey took him from studying political science and psychology at the University of Alberta to earning his PhD in clinical psychology from McGill University. It's like he was preparing for a career of analyzing both individual psyches and entire sociopolitical systems. Talk about killing two birds with one philosopher's stone. So after a stint at Harvard, Peterson landed at the University of Toronto, where he taught psychology and developed a reputation as an engaging lecturer. But it wasn't until 2016 that Peterson rocketed to international fame, or infamy, depending on who you ask, with his opposition to Canada's Bill C-16. Suddenly, this mild-mannered psychology professor became a cultural war lightning rod faster than you can say postmodern neo-Marxism. So this leads us to his writings. So imagine walking into a bookstore and finding a self-help book that references everything from biblical stories to neurochemistry to the social hierarchy of lobsters. And that's essentially what Peterson did with his bestseller, 12 Rules for Life. It's part life advice, part cultural critique, and entirely unapologetic in its mission to get you to sort yourself out, bucko. So here are the key concepts. First, stand up straight with your shoulders back. Peterson's lobster-inspired rule about the importance of posture isn't just about looking good, it's about embodying confidence and climbing the dominance hierarchy. It's like he's saying, fake it till you make it, but with more serotonin and exoskeletons. 2, treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Peterson points out that people are often better at taking care of their pets than themselves. It's his way of saying, be your own emotional support human. 3, make friends with people who want the best for you. Now, this rule is about surrounding yourself with positive influences. It's like Peterson's version of you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, but with more emphasis on avoiding people who want you to stay in a hell of your own making. 4, compare yourself to what you were yesterday, not to someone else today. This rule encourages personal growth without the pitfalls of envy. It's like Peterson telling us the only person you should try to be better than is the person you were yesterday, unless yesterday you was already pretty awesome. 5, do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Now, this controversial rule is about the importance of socialization and boundary settings in parenting. It's Peterson's way of saying your kids might be the center of your world, but they shouldn't be the center of everyone else's. Number 6, set your house in order before you criticize the world. This rule emphasizes personal responsibility. It's like Peterson's response to everyone wants to change the world. And he would say, have you tried changing your socks first? And then 7, pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Peterson argues for the importance of finding meaning over mere pleasure. It's his way of saying life is suffering, so you might as well make it worthwhile suffering. 8, tell the truth or at least don't lie. And this rule emphasizes the psychological and social importance of honesty. It's like Peterson he's channeling his inner Kant, but with more emphasis on the personal consequences of dishonesty. 9, assume that the person you're listening to might know something you don't. This rule promotes intellectual humility and effective communication. It's Peterson's way of saying, maybe, just maybe you don't know everything. 10, Be precise in your speech. Peterson emphasizes the importance of clear communications, like he's telling us, say what you mean and mean what you say, or chaos will ensue. 11, do not bother children when they're skateboarding. This rule is about allowing necessary risk-taking for growth. It's Peterson's way of saying helicopter parenting is the fast track to producing adults who can't adult. Now that's the ultimate cringe. 12, pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. The final rule is about appreciating small moments of beauty and life suffering. It's like Peterson saying life is hard, so take joy where you can find it, preferably in a furry package. Now, this book catapulted Peterson from controversial Canadian professor to global intellectual superstar, faster than you can say clean your room. It's like he distilled the wisdom of the ages into a set of rules that your no-nonsense grandfather would approve of, but with more influence from Carl Jung and biblical exegesis, or depending on what pastor you ask, maybe eisegesis. Now, before he was telling people to sort themselves out, Peterson was diving deep into the nature of meaning, belief, and mythology. Maps of Meaning, the Architecture of Belief, is his magnum opus, a dense, and let's underline dense, exploration of how humans construct meaning. It's like he decided to create a GPS for the human soul, but the GPS sometimes takes you on unexpected detours through Carl Jung's archetypes and neuropsychology. Key concepts: the dual nature of human experience. Peterson argues that we experience the world as a domain of order, the known, and chaos, the unknown. It's like he's saying life is this constant dance between marathons of Lord of the Rings on Netflix and, oh my God, what's happening, anxiety. Second was the hero's journey. Drawing on Joseph Campbell, Peterson emphasizes the universal narrative of the hero who ventures into the unknown. It's his way of saying life is basically a really complicated video game. There's a whole lot of side quests and you're the protagonist. And then 3 was the importance of mythology. Peterson argues that myths encode fundamental truths about human existence. It's like he's saying those old stories aren't just fairy tales, they're the user manual for being human. And this is one of the keys to understanding Peterson's thought, is he will use this a lot in his own work as well. 4, the nature of evil. Peterson explores the psychological roots of evil. It's his attempt to answer the question, why do bad things happen to good people, with a side of, and why do people do those bad things anyway? 5, the significance of meaning. Peterson argues that humans need meaning more than happiness. It's like he's telling us, don't worry, be meaningful. And this book is like Peterson's attempt to write the source code for human consciousness. It didn't quite work out. Turns out we're more complicated than even a 500-page book can fully explain, but it is an impressive effort nonetheless. Now, Peterson isn't just about books. He's got more intellectual greatest hits than a 1970s rock band has guitar solos. So here are some of his famous, or you could argue infamous, ideas. First is postmodern neo-Marxism, Peterson's favorite academic boogeyman. It's like he took postmodernism and Marxism, put them together in a blender, and poured out a smoothie of everything he thinks is wrong with modern academia. And then 2, enforced monogamy. It's a controversial concept that Peterson argues is necessary for social stability. It's not about forcing people to marry at gunpoint, but rather about promoting monogamy as a cultural norm. Now, this has sparked more heated debates than a season finale of The Bachelor, because Peterson wants everyone to get a rose. 3, the danger of equity doctrine. Peterson argues against equity of outcome, favoring equity of opportunity instead. It's his way of saying life should be fair at the starting line, but not necessarily at the finish. 4, the importance of IQ. Peterson emphasizes the significance of IQ in life's outcomes. It's a stance that is about as controversial as putting pineapple on pizza. And then 5, gender differences. Peterson argues for the existence of innate differences between men and women, a topic that is about as relaxing to discuss as a game of Jenga played on the top of the truck your dad is currently changing the oil in. 6, the perils of ideological possession. Peterson warns against becoming too attached to any ideology. It's like he's saying, think for yourself, but don't always think you're right. 7, slaying the dragon of chaos. And this is a metaphor for facing life's challenges head on. It's Peterson's way of telling us life is not all sunshine and rainbows, but that doesn't mean you can't be a hero of your own story. Peterson's rise to fame, it is a case study in 21st century intellectual celebrityism. One minute, he is a psychology professor with a YouTube channel. The next, he is being called everything from a dangerous right-wing ideologue to the savior of young men everywhere. It's like he went from zero to culture war hero in 60 seconds flat. So here are some of the key moments in the Peterson saga. The BC-16 controversy, Peterson's opposition to this Canadian bill, which he argued could compel speech, was his stepping stone to fame. It's like he found the go viral button and pressed it hard and more rapidly than a toddler realizing they can roll down the window. 2 is the Channel 4 interview. His confrontational interview with Cathy Newman became an internet sensation faster than you can say, "So you're saying." It was like watching a chess match where one person insisted on playing checkers. Checkmate, Peterson. 3, Peterson's highly anticipated debate with this guy on capitalism versus Marxism. It was like the philosophical equivalent of a heavyweight boxing match, but with more sniffing and shirt tugging and less ear biting. 4, the carnivore diet. Peter's adoption of an all-meat diet sparked as much discussion as his philosophical ideas. It's like he decided to fight postmodernism by channeling his inner caveman. Peterson. We got the meat. Sweats, because that's a lot of beef. And then 5, the self-authoring program. Peterson's online writing program aimed at helping people sort out their past, present, future. It's like he's offering a DIY kit for building better you. So let's talk about the good, the bad, and the lobster. So Peterson's impact and criticisms. So like any polarizing figure, Peterson has hardcore supporters and fierce critics. So let's just break it down in a simple way. So here's the good. Inspiring personal responsibility. Peterson's emphasis on taking charge of your life has resonated with many, particularly young men. It's like he's becoming the internet's stern but caring father figure. Bringing complex ideas to the mainstream. Whether you agree with him or not, Peterson has got people talking about psychology, philosophy, and mythology. You know, it's like he's kind of turned Carl Jung into a water cooler conversation. And then challenging orthodoxies. Peterson isn't afraid to question prevailing narratives, which can lead to valuable discussions. It's like he's saying, but why? He's the but why kid in the classroom of public discourse. Now let's talk about the bad. At times there is an oversimplification of complex issues. Critics argue that Peterson sometimes reduces nuanced topics to simple narratives, hence the myth. It's like he's trying to explain quantum physics with a flip book. And then there are some controversial stances on sensitive topics. His views on gender, climate change, and other hot-button issues have drawn significant criticism. It's kind of like he can't help but poke the hornet's nest of contemporary debates. And then the lobster. Yes, the lobster thing. Peterson's use of lobster neurochemistry to explain human hierarchies has become both a meme and a shorthand for his entire philosophy. It's like he turned a seafood dinner into a lecture on evolutionary psychology. And you would have thought, with the publicity Red Lobster is getting, they wouldn't go bankrupt. But I guess they don't clean their kitchens. So Peterson's rise is inexplicably linked with the internet age. His lectures on YouTube, his Twitter presence or X presence, whatever you want to call it, his podcast appearances, all of these have contributed to his status as a public intellectual. It's like he's becoming the first philosophy professor to go platinum on YouTube, thanks Joe Rogan. And the internet age intellectualism, it does come with its own challenge and opportunities. There is a rapid spread of ideas. Peterson's thoughts can circle the globe faster than you can say bucko. It's like intellectual teleportation. But there's also the misinterpretation in memes. The internet's tendency to reduce complex ideas to sound bites and memes can lead to misunderstandings. Suddenly, clean your room becomes a political statement. And then engaged audience. Peterson's fans are notoriously passionate. It's like he's built a virtual army of lobsters ready to pinch at any criticism. And then constant scrutiny. Every word Peterson utters is analyzed. Like even if he orders a drink at Starbucks, we're going to question why he ordered that drink. So what does it all mean, bucko? Well, love him or hate him, there's no denying that Jordan Peterson has made a significant impact on contemporary discourse. And a distinguished first name, if I do say so myself. He is like the intellectual equivalent of cilantro. Some people can't get enough. Others think he leaves a bad taste in their mouth and tastes like soap. But everyone seems to have an opinion. And Peterson's emphasis on personal responsibility, his exploration of mythology and meaning, and his willingness to tackle controversial topics have earned him a dedicated following. At the same time, his provocative statements and what some see as an oversimplification of complex issues have drawn fierce criticism. In the end, Peterson is perhaps best understood not as a messiah or a menace, but as a mirror, reflecting our culture's anxieties, aspirations, and arguments. He's tapped into a hunger for meaning and guidance in a chaotic world, while also embodying the polarized nature of our current discourse. So whether you see him as a brilliant synthesizer of ancient wisdom and modern science, or a pseudo-intellectual peddling repackaged conservative ideas, one thing is for sure. Jordan Peterson has got us all talking, and in a world where apathy is often the default, that might be his most significant accomplishment of all. So remember, as you're wrestling with these Petersonian concepts, understanding Peterson is like trying to assemble IKEA furniture while simultaneously writing a thesis on Nietzsche. It's complex, potentially frustrating, but might just result in a more put-together worldview and maybe a nice bookshelf. So keep cleaning your room, slaying your dragons, and remember, life is suffering, but that doesn't mean it can't be meaningful. And hey, next time someone asks you, WWJD, what would Jordan Peterson do? You can confidently probably tell you to sort yourself out and then go pet a cat. Then stand up straight with your shoulders back and shut away like the top lobster that you are.